Ladies and gentlemen, I am currently participating in a very unique type of chess event. This chess event is called the Team Chess Battle on chess.com. It's essentially legalized cheating. Essentially what it is a 2-on-2 format where a team has two players, goes up against the team with two players, and you're allowed to talk out your moves. Two people get to come up with ideas, and ultimately one person controls the mouse. You can trash talk the other team. It's a beautiful thing. With just one major problem. This event would make a lot of sense if the teams were evenly matched. And in some cases they are. There are teams like Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky and Robert Hess. There are teams like Peter Svidler and Jan Gustafsson. I'm on a team with a guy who's a bit better than me. A little bit. I wouldn't say too much, but on a good day, he's quite a bit better than me, and that guy's name is Hikaru Nakamura. Yes. Top 1 and 2 in the world in Blitz and Bullet. Top 3 in the world in Classical. He's playing in the Candidates. My teammate is Hikaru Nakamura, which is terrifying. But it will make for good content, and that is the most important thing. You see, apparently Hikaru was actually given an option to choose between myself and Danny Wrench, and he chose me, apparently, and thank you, Hikaru. Yesterday, we played our first matchup, and we had a killer matchup. We were up against Eric Hansen of the Chess Bros and Jordan Van Forest of no channel, because he doesn't have a channel, but their average rating is like 2670 FIDE. They're probably the pre-tournament favorites, and I'm going to tell you how this went. Now, you may be sitting there wondering, Gotham, call me Levy. Gotham, what is preventing Hikaru from telling you every single move to make? Well, that's the interesting thing. That's my role. I don't really know what my role is when my teammate is Hikaru. I think it's to choose the openings, be good with time management, and suggest ideas here and there. That's basically my role, because he's better than me, and he's going to be better than me in 90 out of 100 positions. Maybe in 10 of them, I'll come up with a better idea than him. Maybe that's even generous. So the matchup format is we play 2 games of rapid chess. We play 10-minute games, and if we need to, we play an Armageddon. So this was game number 1. Jordan and Eric opened up with e4, and Hikaru let me choose the opening, and I went for a Caro-Kann. You know, Hikaru's objective was obviously to give me a level of comfort in the opening so that we're not just playing the Najdorf Sicilian, where I would just be sitting there going, okay, Hikaru, yes, I'm gonna make every move, right? So c6, and the grandmasters chose the 2 knights Caro-Kann, which is knight f3, knight c3, a very solid line. Here Hikaru and I deliberated a little bit and ultimately went with bishop g4. There are many lines here. Knight f6 used to be playable, but white has claimed, I think, quite a considerable advantage after e5. The position's very unpleasant. So instead of that, we go bishop g4, we trade the knight, and then we're gonna develop our position like this. White attacks, we take on f3, and now you can play e6. We played knight f6, which is just a direct strike, and we are actually trying to get them to play this move e5. A lot of newbies might be sitting there going, what about that move? And then d4. Actually, structurally, white is in a lot of trouble here because black is going to immediately play c5, knight c6, stockpile pressure, and white needs to be a bit careful, which is why most of top-level games generally put, you know, a bishop over here and then castle. They play very, very solidly. We played g6 because we wanted to put our bishop on the g7 square. And then we played e6 because they were attacking our pawn in the center of the board. And now we have to, you know, get moving. All right, we're going to play here and we're going to castle. And that's exactly what we did. Rook d1 and castle. You will notice our position is rock solid. Very, very solid. White's objective in this position is going to be to play d4, not e5. Also not taking, because why would you give us this very strong position where we will just get very natural development? So white is not going to take or push. White is going to leave the pawn there. And now we have a lot of moves. And essentially here in the opening, Hikaru was like, yo, Levy, play whatever you want. And I was like, Hikaru, that's terrifying. Please don't tell me to play on my own. I'm playing against 2 people who are much better than me. But he was like, you could literally do anything. And I was like, really? Even queen a5, queen a2? No, sorry, I'm not a Gotham subscriber. I'm Gotham himself. So knight bd7. And now the grandmasters played this move a4, just sort of arbitrarily taking some space. And a very important moment here is, do we play a6, do we play a5, or do we not even touch the queen side? Right? Ultimately, we went for a5. I don't think there's a huge difference. This feels nice because it just doesn't let white walk into our position. I think we definitely should avoid allowing white to get the pawn to a6. Computers love this type of stuff. They love to attack the base of the pawn chain, and I just, rather than doing all of that, we decided to play a5. And now the grandmasters played h4, right? So they're trying to create a same-side attack. Very important moment for us. If I was playing here on my own, I might consider this move h5. Just don't let them advance. Hikaru was like, no, what you got to do in this position was quite instructive. He was like, the only real plan for black is to take everything in the center, play knight f6, and sit. Just wait. White has to come to us. White is the one that played this line. White has a slight advantage. White has to prove the point. White either has to create an attack here or here. And Hikaru was like, you can sit and wait. That's what you're supposed to do. He also said taking with the pawn was a slight inaccuracy because white could play queen e3. When I was like, what? That is bananas. But they took, and we went here. And basically what Hikaru said was, look, they're trying to play h5. So now we go here, and now we sit and wait. And according to the computer, white is a little bit better because white is going to put the bishop on g5. But how is white going to break through? And yeah, it started becoming pretty clear after a lot of shuffling and just being rock solid. Look at us. We're just literally shuffling the pieces back and forth, right? We're just literally moving the pieces back and forth. It's really hard for white to actually do anything in this position because white has to get in with a pawn break, but every single pawn move for white weakens the position. And black is completely solid. Everything in our position is protected. It looks scary. And then they went here and traded bishops, and that was their key mistake. So that was their key mistake. Once they removed the bishop pair from the board, we just got a very powerful knight. They can't go g4, we go here. They can't go c4, we go there. And the rest of the game was sort of spent shuffling. Look at white's time. Look at white's time. Hikaru was just kind of telling me you could literally move back and forth. There is nothing you can do here. And yeah, slowly but surely, the guys got kind of low on time, and ultimately we made a draw. And that's kind of instructive. It's kind of instructive that white has absolutely nothing in this position. It's kind of nice. I mean, we sort of we sort of neutralized them completely, which I don't think is a bad result with white, with black rather. So we had to play again. The game review in this game said we both played at 97%, and it was a very, very solid game. And yeah, life is good. So here we go to game 2. Now we have white. Now I was thinking, hey, let's put this game away. Hikaru asked me what opening I wanted to play. I said, Hikaru, I want to play the Vienna, but I don't want to play the Gambit. And you say, God, what? The Gambit? But Gotham, I win all my games in this opening. Yeah, but your opponents aren't two 2,700 level players. Okay, Hansen's like 2,610, but 3,100 online. Not his rapid, but his blitz and bullet. The problem with the Vienna Gambit is top-level grandmasters are very well prepared, and you're not really going to surprise them. This opening is extremely effective for 99% of the rating ladder. But I said, hey, Hikaru, why don't we play g3? And this is another way to play the Vienna. And basically, you just play bishop g2, you play d3, you play knight e2, right? And then you keep a lot of pieces on the board. And I said, let's go for this. So they played bishop c5. We played here. They played knight c6, knight e2. And I think this was Jordan Van Forest's innovation, a5. I think this is very much like a Jordan move. And also, black is not rushing to castle. So I had a feeling that they were going to try to attack us over here. Also here, my internet disconnected, and I lost 20 seconds, and then I lost another 38 seconds. But luckily, I managed to, recover. So I played, we played h3. To stop knight g4 stuff, and then we played d3 to get our bishop out. And then here black played a4. And to me, that's a weird move. And we were kind of talking about it with Hikaru, like we didn't understand why. You might remember the last game when white played a4, like this makes sense because you're trying to instigate but what are you like if we just play a3, which is what we did, isn't this pawn just a target for the rest of the game? That's what we couldn't understand. But they played it, so clearly they seemed confident. And then they played h6, so they're still not castling. They're disallowing bishop g5. They might also be preparing g5, but then we both castled, and that was that. And so in this position, the major idea for white is to get some sort of f4 going. g4, f4, knight g3. And so to do that, you've got to move the bishop out of this diagonal. To me, by far, the most natural move is just to play king h2. I played king h2. And then Hikaru started being like, well, Actually, maybe king h1 was better. Like, I would never play king h1 because it feels much more natural to defend my pawns with my king. But with the king on h1, you are more susceptible to various like knight hops. Like there's sacrifices, and then there's like moves like bishop g4, and that's, you know, the king is safe here, but on h2 it's not. So I don't know. And Hikaru was kind of telling me, you know, maybe it was better to go to h1, but we followed up with our plan, right? Now the position's getting very, very complicated, very tense, and here the boys played knight to d4, jumped into our position. And Hikaru was like, okay, they're trying to justify this by advancing the pawns behind the movement of the knight. Makes sense, all right? So here we started thinking, all right? We started thinking, we thought for a while, and basically Hikaru said, if you want the game to be decisive, you should go for f5. Someone's gonna lose. Black will play c6, we will play g4, black will play d5, we will play knight g3, we will start our attack, black will start their counter attack on us. And very tough to predict what's going to happen here. The alternative to that was to take the knight. Now, taking the knight, we can anticipate that black will take with the bishop, because if they take with the pawn, they lose control of the center, and they also block their bishop. Very, very important positional thing. For a lot of beginners, pawn takes makes sense because you attack the knight, right? Level 1 chess is, I take back and I attack the knight. It's got to be a good move. But as you get better in chess, you go, wait a minute, then I double my pawns, I lose central presence, and I block my bishop. So I do 3 things wrong, but me attack horse, right? And then here Hikaru spotted, I didn't see this, but it justifies the move. It justifies our whole plan thus far. Take. Oops. That's a free pawn. And it kind of, I was suspicious of this plan, and you may be wondering, how is that a free pawn? Well, if they play rook takes a4, we play pawn c3, targeting the rook and the bishop. And you might say, but so what, Levy? So what? That's not a free pawn. Yeah, but it might as well, it might as well be a free pawn. Because we're going to get the bishop pair, we're going to go b4, bishop b2, and black is going to be in a lot of trouble. This position's very bad for black. So they went ef4, and then came up with a very cool idea. And the very cool idea was this. The move, this is what happens. This is why team chess is so interesting. You pair 2 strong grandmasters together, they come up with some really interesting ideas. Pawn takes f4, bishop takes f4, and they came up with rook a5. Rook a5. And the idea of rook a5 is to swing the, look at that. Look at that. To target our king. They still can't take the knight because of c3. Now we're in trouble. Except it's team chess. And Hikaru does what Hikaru does in this position and finds a move that is so brutal. It's a move that stops rook h5. And it's not g4, and it's not bishop f3. The move is bishop to d2, a backwards bishop move that attacks the rook, prevents rook a4 because of c3, and rook h5 is no longer possible because when we move the bishop here, our rook opened up targeting the knight, which would be defending the rook, so we would play rook takes f6 and then queen takes rook. That's just what Hikaru does, man. Bishop d2 is absolutely ridiculous. Bishop d2 is I mean, that is a cold shower. And the tide shifts. They thought for 3 minutes. They thought for 3 minutes and 39 seconds on this move because they realized their position was in bad shape. And they went rook to e5. Now here, I got really confident. I just thought it was over. I was like, we're up a pawn. We're going to consolidate. What we should have done here is we should have traded their bishop. That's what we should have done. Their bishop is very strong. And they can't go to a7 because, of course, we'll take the rook. And this is great. I mean, this is a completely winning position. Much better. Not completely winning, but much, much better position for white. Because we're just a clean pawn up. But instead of that, we sort of were like, we're just going to play knight c3, right? And then they played d5. And all of a sudden, the whole game shifted back. And the point is that we're going to win a second pawn, but they have a lot of activity. they're going to play something like queen d7. All right, and let's say we play like rook b1, and then they're going to go take, and rook e2, and whoa, right? What's happening here? That's crazy. How are we losing? King h1, they're going to sack the rook. They're going to sack the rook. They're going to mate us. Queen h3. So all of a sudden, d5, and our celebration was very short-lived. We played queen f3, and now we had a massive simplification, and at the end of it, they're a pawn up, but Hikaru was like, we can't lose. That's very interesting. That Hikaru sensed danger and decided, you know what? I just gotta, and maybe we could have played pawn takes, but the best thing that we could have done there is it's very instructive. We should have traded their bishop. We should have traded our okay bishop for their really, really good bishop. It's just instructive. It's an instructive moment. We should have played bishop c3 faster, and they found this really critical idea, d5, saying we're down a pawn, but we need to open the position, create activity for ourselves, and when it's all said and done, we go to this endgame. White is a pawn down, but black has a very terrible structure, so we just brought our king, and this is just unlosable for white, because the pawns are so weak. If this was here, this is absolutely losable for white, but because the structure is so bad, they decided they have a minute and a half, we have 3, almost 4, so we made a second draw. Very tense match. It's all going to come down to the Armageddon. Friendly reminder, Armageddon works by bidding. So it's 10 minute with 10-second bonus, but Armageddon is 5-second bonus. And it's that way because it's team chess. You got to talk about it. So it's a slightly different Armageddon format. You wager what time you want to start with, right? So you wager, hey, I want 7 minutes, but I want to play black. But if I'm playing black, and a draw wins me the game. Draw odds. So you take less time on the clock, but you're playing for 2 results. We bid 736. They bid 557. That's aggressive. So they're going to start the game with black, but they are going to start the game with 4 minutes less than us. Now, remember, they get 5-second bonus from the very beginning, and Hikaru's an experienced player, but I was very happy with myself here. I called this opening. The thing is, when you're playing Armageddon and you're playing white, what you need to do is stay up on the clock and complicate the game. You need to play an opening where exchanges will not happen, pawn trades will not happen, and there is a lot of imbalance and a lot of complications. Hikaru asked me, what do you think we should play? I said, I think we should play the English. The point is that the English is an opening where you can play a really long game. And if black plays e5, which is one of the most confrontational Englishes, you can play a reverse Sicilian, and those lines are like, 8 to 10 moves of theory, and then you got to play chess. Hikaru liked the idea. He said, yeah, let's play c4. That's what we did. They played e5. I anticipated they would play e5 because it's the main line. And I've been studying a lot of this English recently. Knight c3, knight f6. And now we play a reverse Sicilian with g3, and they try to go for this d5, which is exactly what you're supposed to do in the Sicilian. We're kind of playing a reverse Sicilian dragon, if you will. So d5, take. But then here, we were like, hey, they might not go knight b6 or knight f6, which are, just normal retreats. They might play bishop c5. And I realized, like, oh, yeah, bishop c5 is a very critical, very forcing line. And that's what they did, because they're strong, right? They're strong players. So castles. And now Hikaru recommended we play the specialty. We play the specialty. By the way, some of you may be wondering about knight takes e5. It's a move, but it leads to a very forcing line. And we decided that rather than playing that forcing line, let's keep pieces on the board. Now, Hikaru here recommended a move which he used to make the candidates. Couple of years ago, Hikaru was playing Grandmaster Yesipenko, Russian player. And in the Grand Prix, Hikaru played this move, Queen c2. Yesipenko went back to f6 and lost. Not right away, like in the future. So Hikaru has very fond memories of this move, Queen to c2. The critical defensive idea here for black is to play knight to d4, force this queen back, and then put that knight there. So to play like this. This is the critical defensive idea for black. And if you play, oh, actually, it's knight d4 takes knight b4, like this. But they did this. They played this knight there first, and I was trying to figure out what's the difference, right? Because like I just said, what you're supposed to do is take, then here, then queen b1, then here, knight e4, the game goes on. But they played here first. Now, we played queen b1, and here Hikaru and I spent 2 minutes and 50 seconds, which was really bad. Really bad. We were trying to calculate, like, can we play knight e1? We ended up rejecting knight e1 because of how strong bishop g4 was. I was actually happy to sort of point that out. Hikaru agreed with me. And he said, yeah, bishop g4 is a problem. Then we were calculating a3. But after knight c2, knight d4, the guys can take our rook, and our knight is hanging, and if we move the knight, their knight escapes. So we were like, wait a minute, we can't do that. So then we thought about playing a3 and rook a2. But that's also bad, because they come here, and then they bring the knight out. So we were stuck, and then finally, after 2 minutes and 40 seconds, we were like, you know what, let's just take and put the knight here. And you know what we messed up? The difference in where black moves first. Black has to go here, because if black does what they did in the game, we had to play queen e4. That was our mistake, not queen b1. We were not supposed to retreat. We were supposed to put the queen in the center, threatening the pawn, and also putting the queen on the c4 square. That was what we did wrong. We made that mistake. So we accidentally stumbled into the same position, then spent 2:46. We had a 4-minute time advantage, and now it's gone. Now we're up 2 minutes. That's it. So very, very tense. ed4, knight e4. If we draw this game, we lose. So we have to win the game. Now we try to keep pieces on the board and try to keep the time advantage. 7:06, 4:57. Now it's in English. Right, it's in English. So we're going to use the queen side. We're going to play bishop d2, queen c2, rook e1, rook c1, bring our pawns forward, put our knight on c5. These are all ideas in the position. They play h6. They spent a lot of time on that move, but it was to prevent bishop g5. Now we got to continue to build our time advantage. Queen c2. We get our pieces off the back rank. We're going to put rooks where they belong, and we're going to start advancing and play knight c5. They are going to go here, strengthening their center, develop these 3 pieces, and probably bring the bishop back this way. Okay? Rook e8. Now, we're very close to getting our knight stuck, or at least losing this pawn. So we played rook e1. They played a5. So every single game they've played, they've made an a-pawn move. It's very much Jordan style, right? This game, a5, a4. First game of the match, a4. Very interesting, right? A lot of flank pawn pushes. We played a3. The reason we played a3 is because if we don't, they're going to keep pushing. We're going to lose control of the queen side. So a3, queen e7, rook c1, c6, making improving moves. We have a 2-minute, 40-second time advantage, which is very, very important in the Armageddon. Now we play h3. Again, we just have to keep the game going, right? They play bishop f5. Now we have a 3-minute time advantage. Now we hop the knight to c5, and we are very, very close to crashing through on the queen side. Hikaru here spotted knight e3. Very nasty move. Trying to get us to take, and block our knight. But he wanted to go take, f4. And this is really complicated position. But that is one of the ideas. So, rook d8. Now we advance on the queen side, and we're making progress. Now it's a very tense moment. If black does nothing, if black just sits, we are going to play queen c4, and then we are going to play b5. Or we're going to just take this pawn. But in general, the idea is this. It's to crash through on the queen side and pressure black rather, with this bishop, right? Our bishop is better than this bishop. This bishop is sort of staring at nothing. Whereas we are going to, we have very natural improving moves. So, sensing desperate times call for desperate measures, sensing that they are down about 3 minutes here, they lash out. h5. It's now 2:45 versus 5:33. The Armageddon wager is coming back to bite them, right? h5. They're trying to attack us. We decide, we're thinking, do we play h4? Do we not? So we decide queen c4 now. With the idea of b5, with the idea of queen d4. All of these ideas are on the table. Now they make a big decision. What's interesting is that this is the top computer move. And they liked this move, Jordan and Eric. Hikaru hated this move. They took our knight. So they got rid of our knight, but they lost their bishop. And now the plan is very simple. And if we trade these pieces, we're going to keep playing b5 and etc. So what's interesting is that the computer actually didn't mind this trade for black. Hikaru really, really did not like it for black. I mean, he thought we're just crashing in, but that's the beauty of chess. We can have this debate forever and ever. They played queen d7, right? Now they're attacking us here, and now a key defensive resource for them. We are better in this position no matter what, unless they find this move, and they find this move with 2 seconds on the clock. Excellent defensive measures from Jordan and Eric. Knight c7. Hikaru called this move a brilliant defensive move. The idea is to get out of the way of this, stop b5, and even put the knight on b5, and then go here later. So now we are in a very, very tough spot. We are up 3 minutes, but what are we going to do here? And here I came up with an idea. I'm very proud of this idea. I said, Hikaru, what about bishop f3? Giving up the h3 pawn for the h5 pawn, and my idea was to open the h-file, just to have an attack, just to get an attack going. My other idea was that if we play bishop f3 and they play g6, I love this. That looks really nice. And maybe in the future we'll play g4. I'm not saying right now. I'm not saying we're going to do this right now. But in the future, maybe we have something like this. Knight b5 and g4. And this is going to be our idea. And that's what we're going to try to do. And maybe not. You know, maybe rook g1, they can just take on h3. But that's the point. Like, let's go for a little something. Like, let's make them make a difficult decision. So they did, and they swapped pawns with us. I was very happy with this because now we have a development. Now we actually got somewhere. Hikaru found this idea to bring the queen over to g5. And we have a very simple plan. And this plan is to go here, rook h1, move the bishop, and checkmate them. Now the boys found another very nice defensive idea. Bishop out of the position to take control of this diagonal. Now I said, Hikaru, what about bishop f3, king g2? He said, that's probably the best plan. Bishop f3. Listen, I'm doing my part. I am happy to suggest ideas. Bishop to d5, king to g2, defending this, looking for rook h1. They have 1 minute and 42. They're still down 2 minutes. This is the nature of Armageddon. If they draw the game, they win. But if we win the game, we win. That's why they have less time. Queen e7, we can't trade queens, so we keep the queen on the board. Queen e5, we can't trade queens. We got to keep the queen on the board. f6. And now a very big moment. Hikaru really wanted to play rook c5. I really wanted to play rook h1. I was like, Hikaru, I think we have a winning idea with rook h1. And the point is, rook h1 looks really dangerous because they can take here. And that looks really dangerous for us. So first we calculated queen h8, king f7, bishop takes d5 check, rook takes d5, and we don't have rook e1 because our queen is hanging. Because our queen is hanging. So then we calculated rook h1, queen e2, queen h7, king f7, bishop d5, rook d5. This apparently works because of rook e1. But what if cd5? Now we don't have anything. Rook e1, if this, we have some check, but there's nothing there. So I thought about rook h1, and maybe this works. Maybe we can get, queen h7, king f7, bishop d5, cd5, but we have to play rook h6, which is not findable. Not from a distance. The idea is queen g6. If the queen goes to g4, we have rook h4. It's not findable. All right, not findable. So we spent a bit of time. We ultimately went with rook c5, but we lost a minute. Now we're only up 1 minute on the clock. Very tense game. They get their king out of danger. We double up on the c-file, right? We're just trying to make some progress. They play queen f5, and now the guys have just totally figured us out. We go king g1, getting out of the pin, right? So that's not possible here. And all of a sudden, it looks like we are about to get mated. But we have queen f3, and we are safe. We are safe, and this is a little bit under attack. Black only has 30 seconds. They give us a check. They get out of the position with the queen. Now we have bishop f4, and here Hikaru comes up with a nasty idea. We calculated here very quickly. Bishop c7, deflecting the rook away from this pawn. If this, we get in with the rook, rook c8, and what we had calculated was rook d5, but in this position, they have the brilliant rook c7. If we take this, queen c7, queen e4, king f7, rook b5, we're mated! We lose the game on h1. However, if we play rook takes d5, rook c7, we have queen e4 check, f5, and then we take. If they go here now, we have queen f5 check and we win. So the only move here is knight c7, here, here, here. Insanity. Insanity. But they play queen e8 with 11 seconds on the clock. And we leave our bishop hanging here with queen f3. This was given a brilliant move by the computer. This idea is just designed to play queen g4 or queen f5. They can't take on c7. If they play rook c7, we can even take, and then we have queen f5 and rook d7, and we're getting in. King h6, we have rook d4, rook h4. So we are getting to the king. Queen f3 was a sneaky, a cheeky little find. I would have played bishop f4 here if I was playing, and I would have probably lost all the advantage and went on to lose the game. Queen f3, rook h6, and now we go for an attack. We thought down here to 16 seconds. Queen g4, rook d7, and now cool, calm, and collected. In this position, I was thinking rook g7, but that's only good enough for a draw. Because after king g7, queen d7, queen f7, if we take the rook, we lose. See, what I would have done here against the grandmaster, I would have panicked. Hikaru says, what do you do? Just rook c5. We're just winning. And here, a nice little tactic finishes the game. We just take the pawn. And when they check us and take one back, rook is hanging, check. And the rook cuts off any king move, so it's check. We're going to take the rook. What a game. That was a very, very fun game. And all of this opened up because I really liked that bishop f3 idea, and Hikaru blessed it, and I was very happy about that. And you know, Hikaru was like ridiculous. I mean, queen f3, very nice idea, just leaving the bishop to hang, but it's all instructive, right? And if you're curious about the full VOD and kind of the way we were exchanging ideas and some of the banter there, I think I did a good job. It's a really weird situation in an event because, I mean, theoretically, Hikaru can just tell me what piece to move to what square, and that would be ridiculous. But I would like to think I contributed. I said we should play the English. I think it worked out perfectly. We got a very complicated, imbalanced game, which is basically exactly what you want in an Armageddon. We had a complex fight. It was very back and forth. And we move on to the semis, and we will be facing Daniel Naroditsky and Robert Hess. On paper, Eric Hansen and Jordan Van Forest might be the strongest team in the event. On paper. But Daniel Naroditsky and Robert Hess obviously going to be a very, very tough matchup as well. This was fun. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from this game. This was a very, very high-level English battle. The Karo Khan game in the first game was very solid, and you know, the Vienna in the second game was also quite instructive. How to complicate things, you know, when you're down material and time. But Hikaru and I move on. Was very fun collabing for the first time in a while, and yeah, I look forward to the semis. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.